Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Reading from Canto 4, Chapter 19, chapter entitled King Prutu's 100 Horse Sacrifices. Text 36. एभैर इन्द्रोपसंसृष्टै पाखण्डैर् हरिभिर्जनं धियमानं विचक्ष्वैनं यस्ते यज्ञदृगश्वमो. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada ki Jai. Just see how Indra, the king of heaven, was creating a disturbance in the midst of sacrifice by stealing the sacrificial horse. These attractive sinful activities he has introduced will be carried out by the people in general. Purport by Srila Prabhupada. As stated in Bhagavad Gita 3:21, Yat yat acharati sreshthas tat tat evetaro janaha sayat pramanam kurute lokas tat anuvartate. Whatever action is performed by a great man, common men follow in his footsteps, and whatever standards he sets by exemplary acts, all the world pursues. For his own sense gratification, King Indra thought to defeat Maharaj Prithu in the performance of 100 horse sacrifices. Consequently, he stole the horse and hid himself amid so many irreligious personalities, taking on false guise of a sannyasi. Such activities are attractive to the people in general, therefore they are dangerous. Lord Brahma thought that instead of allowing Indra to further introduce such irreligious systems, it would be better to stop the sacrifice. A similar stance was taken by Lord Buddha when people were overly engrossed in the animal sacrifices recommended by Vedic instructions. Lord Buddha had to introduce the religion of non-violence by contradicting the Vedic sacrificial instructions. Actually, in the sacrifices, the slaughtered animals were given a new life, but people without such powers were taking advantage of such Vedic rituals and unnecessarily killing the poor animals. Therefore, Lord Buddha had to deny the authority of the Vedas for the time being. One should not perform sacrifices that will induce reversed orders. It is better to stop such sacrifices. As we have repeatedly explained, due to a lack of qualified Brahmanical priest, in Kali Yuga, it is not possible to perform the ritualistic ceremonies recommended in the Vedas. Consequently, the Shastras instruct us to perform the Sankirtan Yagya. One second, I think the screen is not shared. Consequently, the Shastras instruct us to perform the Sankirtan Yagya. By the Sankirtan sacrifice, the Supreme Personality of Godhead in the form of Lord Chaitanya will be satisfied and worshipped. The entire purpose of performing sacrifices is to worship the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Vishnu. Lord Vishnu or Lord Krishna is present in the form of Lord Chaitanya. Therefore, people who are intelligent should try to satisfy him by performing Sankirtan Yagya. This is the easiest way to satisfy Lord Vishnu in this age. People should take advantage of the injunctions in different Shastras concerning sacrifices in this age and not create unnecessary disturbances during the sinful age of Kali. In Kali Yuga, men all over the world are very expert in opening slaughterhouses for killing animals, which they eat. If the old ritualistic ceremonies were observed, people would be encouraged to kill more and more animals. In Calcutta, there are many butcher shops which keep a deity of goddess Kali, and animal eaters think it proper to purchase animal flesh from such shops in the hope that they are eating the remnants of food offered to the goddess Kali. They do not know that goddess Kali never accepts non-vegetarian food because she is the chaste wife of Lord Shiva. Lord Shiva is also a great Vaishnava and never eats non-vegetarian food. And the goddess Kali accepts the remnants of food left by Lord Shiva. Therefore, there is no possibility of her eating flesh or fish. Such offerings are accepted by the associates of goddess Kali, known as Bhutas, Pishachas, and Rakshasas. And those who take prasad of goddess Kali in the shape of flesh and or fish are not actually taking the prasad left by goddess Kali, but the food left by the Bhutas and Pishachas. Bhaktivedanta purports ki jai, Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Om Ajnana Timirandhasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshur Unmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Presthaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swamin Iti Namini Namaste Saraswate Devi Gauravani Pracharini Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Deshatharini Jai Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Srivas Adi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram 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 Hare Hare. Hare Krishna. Thank you everyone for joining this morning in Srimad Bhagavatam discussion. Hare Krishna. So in this particular chapter that we are studying, we are currently going through, has so many wonderful lessons for practicing devotees to learn and try to understand, inculcate in our own life. So first one, we see that King Prithu, a empowered incarnation of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, a Shaktiavesh avatar, is conducting Ashwamedh Yajna for the prosperity of his kingdom and for the happy sustenance living of his subjects. And after he has performed 99 Ashwamedh Yajnas, while the 100th Ashwamedh Yajna is on, King Indra has become very insecure, and as is the case whenever there anyone excelling in the either fruitive activities or mystic powers, King Indra becomes immediately insecure, thinking that the person may be after my position as the king of heaven. And then we see the prowess of King Prithu's son, Vijitsava. His name is also mentioned here. Not here. Yeah, Vijitsava is the name given by the priest to the King Prithu's son because of his prowess in subduing King Indra. Of course, he didn't have to directly confront and attack because King Indra was holding the dresses of so many sannyasis, false sannyasis. And it is also understood in this chapter that if the leader of a particular group of people or a particular society, if the leaders are not careful in their own conduct, in their own activities, how it can have a devastating effect on the social order, as is mentioned by Lord Brahma to King Prithu and the priest. And last and foremost, we can also understand from this chapter, from the previous verses, how satisfaction of Lord Vishnu or Lord Krishna or Lord Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is the primary goal for any sacrifice. The perfection in spiritual life is not guaranteed by how perfect we are, how meticulously, how perfectly we fulfill each and every order that is received to us. But the perfection in our spiritual life, of course, we still need to put this endeavor, but the ultimate perfection depends on how we satisfy the representatives of the Supreme Lord and ultimately the Supreme Lord Himself. Otherwise, whatever effort we perform, if it doesn't lead to the satisfaction of Lord Vishnu or Lord Krishna, it is Shama Evahi Kevalam. So here we see, after Lord Brahma has appeared in the sacrificial arena, first of all, he sets the expectation of King Prithu and the priest in the sacrificial arena straight. They say that although Indra is the king of heaven, doesn't necessarily mean that he is a pure devotee. He has no materialistic desires in the heart. There is a statement by Lord Brahma, I believe in the previous verses, where he mentions, you should know very well that even amongst the demigods, there are many unwanted desires. But still, even after acknowledging this, Lord Brahma is instructing King Prithu and the priest to stop the sacrifices, because it is not important how much perfect one is in one's own life. We have to understand the overall plan of the Lord, and which Lord Brahma is trying to explain to King Prithu, to the priest, that my dear king, you wanted the prosperity of your kingdom, you wanted the happy sustenance of your subjects. Both have been achieved. And I personally grant you the benediction that if you just stop at this 99 sacrifices, there will be nothing falling short in your kingdom. And King Prithu and the priest, we see, they immediately submit to the will of Lord Brahma. So we see again here the principle of obedience to the authorities, and it is mentioned in the subsequent part of the commentary on this particular chapter that King Prithu, he became so famous all over the three worlds, much more than what he would have become by the conduct of this 100-horse sacrifice, just by his submission to the will of Lord Brahma and understanding and acknowledging the overall plan of the Lord Vishnu or Lord Krishna to run this universe, where as part of running the universe, the Devatas also form an important part. Not only the Devatas, there is also a proper organization of the social and the spiritual setups of the society, so that the citizens gradually elevate themselves in the spiritual life to become Krishna conscious gradually. And Lord Brahma is saying the sacrifice is meant to satisfy Lord Vishnu, and what is happening here? The results is happening opposite. The more and more you are trying to subdue King Indra and stop him, he is creating more and more disturbance in the form of creating more and more false orders of sannyas. And as a result, unscrupulous people, Srila Prabhupada mentions in the purport, the sinful people being attracted to such false paths shown by King Indra, they also are taking up the dress and the role of these sannyasis and would create eventually disturbance all over the world. So rather than helping the plan of the Lord, you will be in fact creating reversals to the plan of the Lord. And Srila Prabhupada mentions that whenever the sacrifices are leading to the reversal to what the Lord had intended to do, it is much better to stop such sacrifices. And Srila Prabhupada very kindly relates this particular episode to the reason, specific reason, why Lord Buddha appeared in this world in order to apparently deny the Vedic literatures in terms of its instructions on conducting the sacrifices and taking the people away from the Vedic path. The reason being people's misuse of these Vedic instructions to fulfill their own lower tendencies and mentalities. So And in the previous verse, Lord Brahma is also giving us a very important lesson that if after trying multiple times, if something is not working out, he mentions, kindly take my words with great respect. We should always remember that if something happens by providential arrangement, we should not be very sorry. The more we try to rectify such reversals, the more we enter into the darkest region of materialistic thought. So submission to the will of the Lord, even if that will sometimes doesn't necessarily conform or is consistent to the plan we have made, then we should still submit ourselves, understanding, let me try my level best, but let me at the same time understand what is Lord's plan. It is mentioned that if we want to make Krishna smile, we can show him our own plan, because we have our own plan and Krishna has his own plan. And ultimately, both in terms of the level of his planning and thinking and willing, as well as his capacity as the Supreme Personality of Godhead, supersedes whatever we plan. So we definitely can make plans in our own spiritual life, in how we want to lead the life, in terms of our endeavors. But at the same time, whenever things don't work exactly as per the plan, it is very, very important what is Lord's will and submit to his will accordingly. That will bring us good fortune. And also his representative like Lord Brahma, who is also happens to be the Acharya in our Brahma Madhva Gaudiya Vaishnava Sampradaya, the preceptor, the first person from whom the entire parampara is coming. He is teaching us through his own examples that how, while achieving perfection in one endeavor, it is like we can inadvertently disturb the overall plan. So it's much better not to stick to our own plan, but to submit our oneself to the will of the Supreme Lord. And in that way, one will achieve the prasada, the satisfaction of the Supreme Lord. So we will just check one more verse and then we conclude. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram. Bhavan paritratum, Bhavam paritratum iha vatirno, Dharmam jananam samayanurupam, Venapachara davaluktamadya, Taddehato Vishnu kala sivanya. O King Prithu, son of Vena, you are part and parcel expansion of Lord Vishnu. Due to the mischievous activities of King Vena, religious principles were almost lost. At that opportune moment, you descended as the incarnation of Lord Vishnu. Indeed, for the protection of religious principles, you have appeared from the body of King Vena. So I guess this being a different theme, we conclude our discussion on the previous verse with this one particular aspect, important aspect of spiritual life: submission to the will of the Lord and submission to the instructions of our acharyas and of our immediate seniors. So with this, we stop and we open the floor for devotees. If you have any queries, questions, comments on what we just discussed, feel free to raise your hand. Hare Krishna. My apologies. Initially, I missed on sharing the screen. All right. Subha Rao Prabhuji, please unmute yourself.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji.
Hare Krishna. Dandos Prabhuji. Yes, Prabhuji.
Prabhuji, Brahmaji, instead of telling to Prabhu, why he couldn't say to Indra to stop such activity, who is actually the mischief?
Yes, Prabhuji. Yeah, very good question. And in fact, this also forms the very crux of our discussion today. Why didn't Lord Brahma ask the person who was doing the mischiefs rather than person who was already obedient and who was already establishing the religious principles, who also happen to be the empowered incarnation of the Supreme Lord Vishnu. See, when a father has two sons, two children, for example, and one is very, very obedient, to explain him is, and to make him follow the instructions is very easy, while at the other time, other context, the other child has its own whims and tantrums. And Lord Brahma clearly mentions in the earlier verses that this king of the Devatas has material desires. So it is not that those material desires will be counteracted by one instruction of Lord Brahma. So the purpose of the authorities is not to make sure that who is right and who is wrong. The purpose of the authorities is to make sure that the overall will of the Lord is implemented and less disruptions to the order of the society which has been created by Lord Krishna occurs. So Lord Brahma's intention is very clear. It's not that King Indra is not wrong, but my dear King Prithu, you are a obedient child. You are an obedient person, and both of you are part and parcel. So it is not that King Indra is not important in the overall scheme of things. So Lord Brahma here is considering what is the scheme of plan by Lord Vishnu, rather than who is right, who is wrong, and trying to correct them. He is trying to mitigate the entire situation. And moreover, he also wants to remind to King Prithu that the purpose for which you were conducting the sacrifice is already fulfilled. There is nothing remaining in that. So even if you leave aside this 100 sacrifice, your purpose is not lost. So because of all these reasons, he decided, instead of correcting King Indra, he decided to ask King Prithu to stop. This is one thing. Second thing is, Prabhuji, it's not that Indra did not learn his lesson after the episode. So again, most important is not how we feel he should have been corrected. It is how the effect of the entire episode was. Indra did come to his senses when after this, even Lord Vishnu appears at the sacrificial arena, and he gives his own words of satisfaction to King Prithu for his obedience to the will of Lord Brahma, to the instruction of Lord Brahma. So we see that that is the ultimate success of any endeavor we do. So probably Lord Brahma knew better how to satisfy Lord Vishnu by which particular action and instruction. That's why he asked King Prithu to stop rather than King Indra to stop. Is this okay, Subbarao Prabhu?
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji.
Hare Krishna. Ayushi Mataji, Hare Krishna.
Krishna Prabhuji, Pranam. Prabhuji, can you repeat the 72 Divya Yoga calculation?
Okay.
And where it is, that calculation?
Okay, so you have to open 4th chapter of Bhagavad Gita. I believe it's text number 3 in 4th chapter and Srila Prabhupada's purport. So just see first 2-3 verses in Bhagavad Gita 4th chapter. Let me open 1 second. So there, basically the calculation is mentioned starting with Kali Yuga. Kali Yuga is the smallest of all, which is 4,32,000 years. Dwapar Yuga is twice the Kali Yuga. Okay, twice 4,32,000. Treta Yuga is thrice, and Satya Yuga is 4 times. So 4 plus 3 plus 2 plus 1, it becomes 10. 10 into 4,32,000 is 4.32 million years. It forms the cycle of 4 yugas, which is also called as one Divya Yuga. And 1,000 such Divya Yugas constitute 12 hours of Lord Brahma's days. And within 1 day of Lord Brahma, there are 14 Manus. Okay? And our current Manu is Vaivashvat Manu, and many of the pastimes that we read in Srimad Bhagavatam, they are from the time of Swayambhuva Manu, but within the same day of Lord Brahma. Okay?
Yes, Prabhuji. It will be in 4.3 Bhagavad Gita.
So just check the first 2-3 verses. Let me open it for 1 second. No. Meanwhile, I will request next devotee to also. Yeah, sorry, Mataji, it's
Four-
not
4.1.
4.1 purport. Yeah.
Yes, Prabhu. Thank you,
Okay.
Prabhu.
Hare
Pranam.
Krishna. Hare Krishna. Prakash Prabhuji, Hare Krishna. Please unmute yourself.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji.
Yes, Prabhuji.
If we look at the hierarchy, chain of hierarchy,
Mhm.
SPOG's expansion is King Pruthu. So
Yes.
he is on top. Brahmaji is after that. And then comes the Indra. So is it not logical that Brahma instructs Indra rather than telling his superior to calm down? It's
Yeah.
just
So one important thing to understand is, Prabhuji, the hierarchy you mentioned is, to be very honest, not the right way to see the hierarchy based on the position alone. Because although Prithu Maharaj is a Shaktiavesh avatar, he happens to be a living entity. In fact, if you see the previous purports in this particular chapter, Srila Prabhupada explains that, in fact, Brahma himself explains that both my dear King Prithu, you and King Indra are part and parcel. That means both are Jivatmas. Just that King Prithu happens to be an empowered Jivatma. He is the empowered incarnation, Shaktiavesh avatar. So hierarchy wise, all three are Jivatmas, but Lord Brahma is specifically put in the position. He is the secondary creator, the first created living entity in this material world. So in terms of the overall hierarchical setup, he carries the precedence over everything else. This is one thing, Prabhuji. And we will also see in the subsequent verses how King Prithu was very, very obedient to this order. So we cannot consider the order just based on the Shaktiavesh avatar or incarnation of the Lord alone, because he's not a Vishnu Tattva. Prithu Maharaj, he's definitely a great personality, but in terms of the precedence, Brahma is the preceptor Acharya. He is the first created living entity as the representative of the Lord in this world. So submission to his order is important, especially when he knows the will of the Lord. You see, otherwise, and if we leave aside the hierarchical part, if we understand the perception, how Lord Brahma perceived the situation, how King Prithu perceived the situation, we see that after futile attempts of his son trying to bring Indra to his senses and Indra taking different forms, finally King Prithu himself had become very upset and angry, and he wanted to take up his weapon and kill King Indra. And then the priests themselves, they told King Prithu that you are the host for the sacrifice, you cannot do this. Let us chant the very specific mantras to pull Indra into the sacrificial fire. So we see the situation was going south, and that's why it was important for Brahma to come, stop, rectify the thing, and make less damage to the overall setup created by King Indra. Is that okay, Prakash Prabhu?
perfect, Prabhuji. Thank you very much.
Hare
Thank you. Hare Krishna, Prabhuji.
Hare Krishna. So we'll have few more questions. Suresh Kumar Prabhuji, Hare Krishna. Please unmute yourself.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji, Dandavat Pranam.
Dandos Prabhuji.
Prabhuji, Indra is supposed to be a biased king demigod.
Yes, Prabhuji.
He's in a great position.
Yes.
But how come he is entangled in the Trigunas? Like he's also having material desires.
Yes, Prabhuji. Very good question. And this is very important to understand from many aspects, from setting our expectations right for everybody around us, as well as not disrespecting King Indra's position. So we often give the example, just like when we go to a hospital, right? Suresh Prabhuji. Hare Krishna, Hari Bol. Continue Karu Shakti. So we see when one goes to a hospital and we observe that why are so many people there who are patients and deceased, and we say, oh, this place is such a dirty place, unhygienic place, that everybody here is deceased and all. Hey, Baba, because it is a place of hospital, obviously the deceased people will come there, but at least the good thing is that they are in the process of rectification. They are getting cured. They are taking the medicine. So that is good. So any person, Lord Krishna mentions, in this material world, including these great devatas, they do come under the material potency, the material energy of the Lord, and sometimes they exhibit the behavior which is not conforming to the highest standard of morality or integrity. So we cannot expect, that's why they are in the material world, first of all. So we cannot say that a person is in hospital, but he should be perfect, only I can be imperfect. That cannot be the case. Just like we have impurities, even other living entities in this material world, including King Indra, but we should understand their position just like Brahma understood. He said, I know King Indra is imperfect, but understand his role in the overall scheme of things, how he is being an instrument in fulfilling the will of the Lord in terms of administrative responsibilities and all that. So we should glorify a devotee based on their service to Lord Krishna, rather than considering some demerits which all of us have, including us, which Lord Krishna promises eventually they will go away as well, Prabhuji. So our expectation cannot be that people in this material world are perfect except for me. I am okay to be imperfect, not like that. Is this okay, Suresh Kumar Prabhu? Hare Krishna. So if Brahma is okay with Indra, and of course, it's not that okay means he won't be corrected. Definitely Krishna took measures, Lord Brahma took measures, but we have to see his contribution in terms of service to Krishna. Hare Krishna. So we'll have few last questions, queries. Surya Prakash Rao Prabhu, Hare Krishna, please unmute yourself.
Hare Krishna Prabhuji, Dhanavad Pranams.
Dandas, Prabhu.
My earlier questions were answered by you, the devotees, who say I got the same doubts also. But still, one thing I want to ask you is, the Indra is the head of the demigods. Each time, this is not the first time what we see in the previous. He has committed several mistakes like this, and Krishna is to pardon him and all that. But what is the message he is giving to the lower cadre? One question. Second is, see, this each horse sacrifice is called one Ashwamedha Yaga. So 100 Ashwamedha Yaga. So he has completed 99, and the king was not given the proper reward for what he has done all these things. And that I feel that he was unnecessarily I cannot say put unnecessarily instead of giving some instructions to Indra by Brahma. He is trying to calm down the King Prabhu.
Yes,
that is, of course, partly you already cleared it. Well, I feel like that, Prabhu, kindly can.
Thank you very much, Prabhuji. Nice question. So I will take up the second question first. We see in Srila Prabhupada's purport, what is the purpose of a sacrifice? Yajna, right? Yajnarthat karmano nyatra lokoyam karma bandhana. Yajna means Lord Vishnu, and the performance of yajna means satisfaction of Lord Vishnu. So to answer your question, was the satisfaction of Lord Vishnu achieved in the sacrifice? The answer is definitely yes, because we will see in the subsequent verses how after Lord Brahma, even Lord Vishnu appears in the sacrificial arena personally to confirm his contentness and satisfaction at the behavior of King Prithu. This is one reason. So sometimes the perfection of our endeavor is not the material perfection, how we perceive it, but even with that imperfect conduct of our endeavor, if Lord is getting pleased, we should prefer that endeavor much better, rather than we stay 100% materially perfect, but we lose the overall purpose, the plan of the Lord. So from that perspective, definitely King Pruthu's sacrifice was fulfilled and 100% perfect. In fact, the goal for which he conducted the sacrifice also was met. It was only the technicality of he not being able to complete the yajna, especially the 100th one, which was making Indra insecure. So Brahmaji said, your goal is getting fulfilled. Let's not disturb King Indra. He has got material desires and we will deal with it separately. So, and first question is, what message King Indra is sending to the overall populace? It's not King Indra, but we can understand what message Lord Krishna is showing through all of us through this particular example, that how much ever great and perfect materially a person may be, if he is not the pure devotee of the Lord, these anarthas are bound to show their influence. So what message Lord Krishna wants to show is pure devotional service is much, much higher platform than being even the king of heaven, right? So it's not to belittle the position of King Indra, but to teach us the lesson that even a materially perfect person in a perfect position can also have these limitations. So from top to bottom, just by climbing the material ladder, it's not that person will become perfect in his or her character. Okay? Is this okay? Surya Prakash Prabhu? Surya Prakash Rao Prabhuji. Hare Krishna. We will have last question or comment. Ayushi Mataji. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji. Prabhuji, this is a out-of-box question. May I ask? Will it be worthy to ask here in the class?
You
Or
can ask, but give me the freedom to decide whether we can discuss it now or later. Yeah?
Okay, I will put my question in front of
Okay.
you all. What is the concept of marriage? Is there any class for learning rituals for that to know the proper marriage agenda? And please refer lecture regarding that, Prabhuji.
I will share the classes, Mataji. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Prabhuji. Tanut Pranam.
Hare Krishna. Hema Mataji, please unmute yourself.
Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna, Prabhuji.
Yes,
One question, general question I am asking regarding the devotional services. Like the spiritual guide and the teacher, master teaches us how to do the devotional services. So does the punya of the devotee also goes to the guru or the master and the spiritual guide? Please tell me, elaborate it, please. Thank you, Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. So first of all, we have to see the punya, the concept of punya and papa in this material world is still on the material realm. Whereas the spiritual master, he is taking charge of us. It is mentioned at the time of initiation, at the time of Diksha, he takes care of all the demerits and all the sinful reactions that we have accrued for our past life as well as this life. Okay, but and at the same time, what is punya? Punya doesn't entail us to the spiritual perfection, Mataji. Okay, so after that, when we take initiation, as the name suggests, we start our building our spiritual credits to achieve perfection. And the more and more we submit to the will of Krishna, the more and more we leave aside the material punyas and all to take effect. We let Krishna and spiritual master take charge. So to answer your question in brief, yes or no? No, spiritual master doesn't bother about the material punya or all. Neither that material punya has any effect once we start submitting ourselves to Lord Krishna. Okay, Mataji. Material punya will give material results, but if we submit to Krishna, Krishna takes charge of our punya, papa, everything. He takes overall charge. He doesn't let the material credit have effect. The level based on the level of our surrender. Is this okay, Hema Mataji? Hare Krishna. So with this, we conclude our discussion. My apologies, we went a bit overboard today. Okay. Vamcha kalpatarubhyascha kripa sindhu evacha patitanam pavanebhyo vaishnavebhyo namo namah. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Ananta Koti Vaishnava Vrinda ki jai. Hare Krishna.